Hi, good morning. Welcome to tip number 7 of my 10 top tips for conceiving, especially if you are struggling to conceive, struggling with infertility like I did. So if you haven't watched videos 1 to 6, please head over and watch them. There's going to be 10, so we're on tip 7, and there's an order, so head over and watch tips 1 to 6. Today is 7, and we're going to be doing up to 10. So if you haven't watched them, I'm Charlotte. I'm the fertility coach. I'm based in the UK. I'm a fertility coach, fertility hypnotherapist and fertility Reiki healer. I'm on Facebook and Instagram, so if you don't already follow me over on there, please head over there. On Instagram, I'm Fertility Coach UK, and on Facebook I'm the Fertility Coach. So the whole reason for me starting this channel, my business, my career, is it's a huge passion of mine because it affected me personally for so many years. I have got a 5.5-year-old daughter now, Remy, who is the result of many years and IVF. So tip number 7 is sleep. Now, I know the first thing people say when it comes to sleep is I struggle, and I know that because I've done it. I've lay there for hour after hour after hour trying to go to sleep. My mind wouldn't switch off. I used to sit and if you watch me and you've watched the videos, you'll know that I say that I used to sit for hours each evening looking at different forums, different tips, symptom spotting, looking at different tests, looking at different reasons, trying to link my story to someone else's. So I know that it's really hard to switch off, and it tends to be for a lot of people when we get in bed, turn all the lights off, turn everything off, that's when our brain starts to play games with us. So I know it's really hard, and it's much easier said than done to say you've got to make sure you get enough sleep. So please don't think that I say that lightly, because I know firsthand that I used to get in bed and I'd be like, oh, you know, why is everyone else getting pregnant? Is anyone else going out to the pregnant this week? Why can't I? Oh, I know what I'll do. I'll look at that, and maybe this month, and I'd start to reason with myself in my head and think of all the reasons, all the excuses, all the things that were going to change. So I know how hard it is to do that first of all and to switch off, but there are a lot of reasons why it's so important. So it does play a huge part generally in our life, so in the quality of our life, in how we live, in how we feel. You know, if we've got no energy, it's generally down to like lack of sleep, bad diet, things like that. So getting a good night's sleep is really good for us and our general well-being. It's really good for our organs, our general body health, and sleep also has a massive part in regulating our hormones, including our fertility hormones. And this is what a lot of people don't make the link with. They don't realise how sleep can affect our hormones, and by affecting our hormones, it can affect our fertility. So the same part of the brain that regulates the sleep and wake hormones is the part of the brain that also triggers the daily release of the reproductive hormones that we need. So if that part of the brain isn't functioning, it's become too tired because we're not going to sleep, we're not having enough sleep, that part of the brain just isn't working to full speed, full capacity, I suppose. It could affect then the release of the reproductive hormones that we need every single day, and they are released every single day, and it's the same part of the body and the brain that does that then that does our sleep and wake pattern. So we need to try and get that down, and it can also affect our ovulation, but it can also affect the difference between a man's sperm maturing and not maturing. It's the same part of the brain. So the same part of the brain that affects our sleep and wake patterns can affect us producing the right hormones. It can affect ovulation, and it can affect men's sperm maturing. So it's really important for us to understand how much of an impact that can have. So it's not like a diet where I can tell you what to go and start doing, because everyone's different. But there are some things, and these are guidelines, because I understand, and I'm all about, if you've watched the previous videos, all about small manageable changes and us living a realistic life. You know, we can't say, oh, I'm going to give up my job, I'm going to give up this life, I'm going to give up that because I need to go and do this, and I can only eat that, and I can only sleep at this time. So we've got to try and just make as many small, manageable, sustainable changes as we can. So Aim for around 8 hours sleep each evening. Try and make that time as manageable as possible. So if you're going to bed at 10 p.m. and you're getting up at 6 a.m, try and make that as much of a routine as you can. So if you're going to bed at 10 p.m. and then you're going to bed at 12 p.m. the next day, and then you're going at 1 a.m. but you're still getting up at 6 a.m, your body clock doesn't know what's going on. One night your body's getting 8 hours sleep, but then the next night it might only get 5 or 6 hours. So try and make a sustainable routine as much as you can. Now, one of the things that always comes up with sleep is people who work shift patterns. So if you work shift patterns, my husband's a tarmacker, so he's awake early every morning, goes to work early, generally works quite late. His sleep pattern is just completely out of whack. So there's only so much you can do. So don't beat yourself up if it's based around work or something. There's not really much you can do. But one thing that really generally tends to help with vitamin D is spending time outside. And I know certainly in the UK we're like quite autumn, it's autumn at the moment, and we do have like a bad winter, but just an hour will really help our vitamin D levels. It'll help energy, we'll sleep better, we'll feel more content, we'll feel more settled. And we'll come on to mindset and all stuff in another tip, but it really helps with grounding. Grounding is great when it's linked with being outside and nature. So try and spend at least an hour out each day, just outside, whether it be walking the dog, taking the children to school, walking to or from work, something like that. The biggest tip that I can find, and I think in society now we're really guilty of it, is relax your mind before bed, because we've got everything literally at our fingertips. So we can get anything on our laptop, our iPads, our phones, on our TVs. We can play everything on demand. We have this culture now in this society where we lie in bed checking our phones. So our brain's going and going and going and going, and then we switch our phone off or whatever, and we expect our brain to switch off. It's not going to happen. So try and avoid anything like that for about an hour before bed. So something like reading is generally quite good to bring your mind down, music. Or if you are going to be doing something for that hour before bed or watching something, avoid anything that stimulates your brain too much. So, don't be doing work, or don't be watching something where your mind really needs to be going. Just something as relaxing as you possibly can. And limit caffeine and alcohol before bed. Obviously, caffeine gets our brain sort of going. One of the things they also say, which is quite a common thing, is food before bed. But again, if you work on a shift pattern or your sleep pattern is completely out of whack, then if you've got to eat at that time, you've got to eat at that time. I'm not all about people going and completely uprooting their lives. So the reason I've done the top 10 tips is you may not be able to go away and implement all 10 tips. Or, for example, in the diet, like I've said with the diet, we listed about maybe 9 or 10 foods that were really good for fertility. You might not like all of those, but if you liked 4 or 5 of them, implement them. If there's 2 of the tips that I can help you with sleeping, implement them. You're not going to be able to take everything, because you would literally just change your whole life. And whilst, yes, it can be tempting, and you think, oh, but it might be able to change my life, I might be able to get pregnant this month. And whilst I understand that, you're going to end up resenting the journey. And I did that multiple times. I went and cleared my fridge out, cleared my freezer out, bought every fertility vitamin supplement going, did this, I wouldn't eat that, I wouldn't drink that. And it made me miserable, and I still wasn't pregnant. So if you're on my Instagram and Facebook, you'll know one of the things I've said about today is not losing yourself in the journey. And it's something I'm really passionate about, because I let my infertility become my identity. That's how I was known. That's how I thought of myself. When I thought about myself, I never thought I'm Charlotte, or I'm Charlie, or I'm this person, or I'm, I like a nice time, I like to go out, I like my holidays. My identity about myself was that I couldn't get pregnant, and that's all I saw about myself. I'd lost every other aspect of myself, and it's really hard to get that back. So make small, manageable changes. If you can take one tip from each sector or from each of my top 10 tips and just make those changes, tips and making changes becomes like our routine. We get up every single day and we brush our teeth. Why? Because that's what we're told we need to do when we're a child. It's routine, we have to do it. For me, and in the UK, definitely we love our cups of tea. So I'll go straight downstairs, put the kettle on, boil some water, make a cup of tea. That's a given. When I go on holiday, I do that no matter what is happening. I get up, brush my teeth, do what I need to do, make a cup of tea. Why? Because that's my routine, because I do it daily. So that's what we need to do. If you can take one tip and implement it into your life, start doing it daily, it will just become your routine. You won't even have to think about it anymore. I've come away from using my phone too much on an evening because I found that my brain was just sort of going. And I think especially if you have got a job where you can work from your phone, or like me, I can run my business from my phone and I can keep track of everything, I'm not even at that point then just scrolling on social media. I'm working, because as soon as I see a work post or a work message, I'm back to work mode. So all evening, even though I've gone and picked my daughter up from school and I've finished work, as soon as I see a message, I'm back in work mode, then I'm out of it, and then I'm in and out. So it's really hard to switch off. So give yourself designated time. If it's that as a couple, you want to sit and watch a movie together at night, put your phones away. Just sit and have some downtime as much as possible before trying to go to sleep. Give your brain the best possible chance, because what I used to do is look at all these things, get myself all upset. My husband would fall asleep and I'd be lying there convincing myself that I was the world's worst wife. Why couldn't I get pregnant? What had I done in my past? Was it karma? Was I being punished for something? And before I know it, my mind's gone from making something this big to like way out of control. So there's some of my tips, and that's tip number 7. So just small manageable changes, and one of the things I always ask for is if there's something in particular you want to know about, that you want me to talk about, please feel free to comment, or like I say, head over and follow me on Instagram or Facebook, and I will see you for tip 8.